He was just a poor village boy. But one old woman's blessing turned him into a man the whole world would never forget. My dear friends, please support me by clicking the subscribe button. Your support means so much to me. Let's grow this family together. Thank you so much. Story begins. Once upon a time, in a small village surrounded by tall roads, there lived a poor boy named Michael. He had no father. He had no mother. In fact, nobody knew where he came from. All they knew was that he appeared in the village one rainy night when he was just 5 years old, crying by the roadside with no shoes and no food. An old hunter found him and took him to the village head. The villagers gave him a small corner in the market to sleep and some old clothes to wear. That was how Michael grew up alone, hungry, but full of kindness. Michael was now 15. His clothes were always torn. He had only one pair of slippers. But there was something special about him. He was always smiling. Even when he was tired, even when he was hungry, he would say, "It is well." Michael did all kinds of small work to survive. He swept the market square in the morning. He helped people carry baskets from the farm. He fetched water for the old men. Some gave him small coins. Some gave him food. But many times, he went to bed with an empty stomach. Even though he was poor, Michael never stole. He never lied. He was known in the village for one thing: his good heart. One hot afternoon, Michael was sitting under a mango tree beside the village stream. He was tired from carrying a load of firewood for the market women. As he wiped sweat from his face with a torn cloth, he saw an old woman walking slowly toward the stream. She was carrying an empty pot on her head. Her legs were shaking, her back was bent, and her clothes looked even older than Michael's. Nobody followed her. Nobody helped her. Michael stood up immediately. He ran to her and said, "Mama, let me help you carry your pot." The old woman looked at him with surprise. For many years, no one had spoken kindly to her. "You want to help me?" she asked. "Yes, Mama," Michael said with a smile. "Let me fetch the water for you." She gave him the pot. Michael filled it with clean water and carried it on his head all the way to her house, which was on the edge of the forest, far from the other houses. The old woman's name was Mama Grace. That day changed everything. When they reached her compound, Mama Grace invited Michael to rest. She brought out a wooden stool and gave him a small piece of yam and palm oil. Michael ate it like it was a feast. She watched him and said, "You are like the son I never had." Michael looked at her and asked, "You have no children?" Mama Grace sighed. "No, I prayed for many years. I waited, but none came. My husband died many years ago. Since then, I have been alone." Michael felt something in his heart. He knew what it meant to be alone. That day, he cleaned Mama Grace's compound before he left. She smiled and said, "Thank you, my son." Michael replied, "Mama, I will come again tomorrow." And he did. From that day forward, Michael became like a son to Mama Grace. Every morning after sweeping the market, he would go to Mama Grace's house. He fetched firewood. He fetched water. He washed her clothes and cooked simple food. When she was sick, he sat beside her and gave her herbs. When she was lonely, he told her funny stories about the market. The villagers began to notice. Some of them laughed. "Is that boy not wasting his time with that old woman?" But others said, "That boy is doing what even her family never did. He is a blessing." Mama Grace began to smile again. Her face, once full of sadness, became soft with joy. Her weak body slowly grew stronger. She would often say, "Michael, you are the reason I'm still alive." Michael would laugh and say, "Mama, don't go yet. I still need you." The love between them grew like a strong tree with deep roots. Michael didn't ask her for anything. He didn't expect a reward. He just served her like a real son would serve his mother. Mama Grace sat with Michael under the moonlight. The stars were bright. The night breeze was cool. She looked at him and said, "You remind me of a dream I had many years ago." "What dream, Mama?" "I saw a poor boy. He was kind. He helped an old woman. And because of that, he was lifted high beyond what anyone could imagine." Michael smiled. "That's a nice dream." Mama Grace held his hand and whispered, "I believe you are that boy." Michael did not understand her words fully that night, but he felt something in his heart. A quiet peace. A kind of joy that money could not buy. A long time ago, before anyone in the village remembered, Mama Grace was the most beautiful young woman in her family. She had bright eyes, a soft voice, and a good heart. Many men wanted to marry her, and in the end, she chose a quiet farmer named Thomas. They built a small mud house at the edge of the village and dreamed of having many children. But after 10 years of marriage, no child came. They prayed. They fasted. They went from one herbalist to another. They drank bitter roots and climbed mountains just to see prophets. But nothing changed. People in the village began to whisper. Maybe she used her womb for money rituals. Maybe her mother cursed her. Maybe she is not a real woman. The pain was deep. Her husband, Thomas, stood by her at first. He told her, "Grace, child or no child, I love you." But years passed. His family began to press him. They said, "You need another wife. You must have a son to carry your name." Finally, Thomas married a second wife. Mama Grace was left in the same house, but everything changed. The new wife gave birth to twins after 2 years. Then she had another baby, a boy. The family celebrated, but Mama Grace sat alone by the fire, watching the flames with empty hands and a broken heart. One day, Thomas fell sick and died suddenly. The new wife took everything: the farm, the money, even the house. Mama Grace was pushed out like a stranger. She moved to the edge of the forest and built a small hut from old wood and clay. That's where she had lived ever since. Alone. Year after year, she watched the world forget her. Her friends got old and died. The children she used to teach in Sunday school were now parents and grandparents. And she, Mama Grace, had no one. No son to call her name. No daughter to sweep her compound. No visitor. No gift during Christmas. Nothing. The people in the village called her the Cursed One. Some children were even afraid to pass by her house. But then came Michael. Every day, the sound of his voice brought music to her ears. "Mama, I'm here. Mama, let me carry that. Mama, I made some porridge for you." He laughed when she told stories. He listened when she shared her pain. He treated her like a queen, like someone who mattered. Mama Grace couldn't believe it. She often sat in her room, crying not from sadness this time, but from surprise. "How can this boy care for me like this?" she whispered to herself one night. "He's not my blood. He owes me nothing. Yet he acts like my son." One afternoon, she asked Michael, "Why do you help me so much?" Michael was sitting on the floor, peeling cassava. He looked up, smiled, and said, "Because if I were your son, I would do all these things. And in my heart, I already see you as my mother." Tears rolled down Mama Grace's cheeks. She got up, walked to him, and placed her wrinkled hand on his head. "May the God of the fatherless bless you. May the angels that watched me cry at night, smile upon you." Michael did not speak, but in his heart, something shifted. That night, he dreamt of Mama Grace walking into the clouds and dropping golden seeds on his head. The villagers began to notice a change in Mama Grace. No longer walked bent over. Moved with strength. Her face, once pale and tired, now glowed. Some women began to greet her again. One woman said, "Mama Grace, that boy you adopted is a good one." She smiled and replied, "He is more than good. He is sent from above." One market day, a group of elders called Michael and asked him, "What are you gaining from this old woman?" Michael looked them in the eye and said, "I am not doing it to gain. I am doing it because she is worth it." They laughed and said, "You are wasting your strength. When she dies, what will you get?" Michael said quietly, "Even if I get nothing, I will still be proud that I made her smile before her last day." The elders were silent. One of them, the oldest, nodded slowly and said, "May your reward surprise you." At Mama Grace's hut, things began to change. Michael cleaned up the entire place. He planted flowers. He made a small garden behind the house. He painted the door red and fixed the broken roof. Mama Grace said, "This feels like home again." They sat under the mango tree beside the house. They watched the sun go down and shared roasted corn. Mama Grace would say, "I thought my story ended in pain. But now, it is ending in peace." Michael smiled but said nothing. In his heart, he had no idea that this love was planting a seed that would grow into something bigger than he could ever imagine. From that day forward, Mama Grace and Michael became almost inseparable. Michael would appear at the old woman's door, holding a broom or a bucket of water. Before he even knocked, Mama Grace would open the door with a smile. "You're here again," she would say, acting surprised. Michael would laugh. "Of course, Mama, I told you I'm not going anywhere." Then he would sweep the compound, clear the weeds, wash her plates, and prepare the firewood. Sometimes, He even cooked their food using fresh cassava or yam from her little garden. The villagers began to notice. Have you seen that boy with the old woman again? Yes. He was washing her clothes yesterday. Ha! This boy must be a fool. What's he getting from her? But there were others who were touched. One woman named Sister Beatrice, a trader in the village market, said, that boy is doing what many of us failed to do. God will surely bless him. And deep in their hearts, many began to respect Michael, even if they never said it out loud. Mama Grace's health continued to improve. She walked stronger, she smiled more, and her laughter returned. Sometimes in the evening, Michael would sit beside her and say, Mama, tell me a story. Mama Grace loved stories. She would look into the sky, smile, and begin. There was a tortoise who wanted to marry a princess, but he had no legs. Michael would laugh and say, Mama, how can a tortoise without legs marry anyone? And Mama Grace would say, don't laugh, oh. Life can surprise you. What you see today is not what you'll see tomorrow. They would both laugh until tears rolled down their faces. Michael came to Mama Grace's house looking sad. She noticed it immediately. My son, what is it? He sighed. Mama, I saw some boys my age going to school today. I stood and watched them. I wanted to cry. Mama Grace's face softened. She held his hand. My child, your time will come. Education is good, yes. But kindness will take you farther than a classroom. You're already learning the best lessons: how to love, how to serve, how to respect. Michael wiped his eyes and nodded. I understand, Mama. I just wish I had the chance to. She said nothing more that day, but in her heart, she began to pray like never before. Michael was about to sleep under the market shade when he heard a weak voice calling, Michael. Michael. It was Mama Grace. She was sick again. Michael ran through the rain without slippers. When he got to her house, she was lying on the bed, shaking and cold. He wiped her with warm water, gave her herbs, and sat beside her all night. He did not sleep, not even for 1 minute. The next morning, Mama Grace opened her eyes and said, you stayed here. Michael nodded, holding her hand, looked into his eyes and whispered, Elle may not have given birth to you, but you are more than a son to me. From that day, people in the village started calling Michael the old woman's son. Children said, see the boy who stays with the old mama. Women said, if I had a son like Michael, I would thank God every day. Even the village chief sent for him one day. When Michael arrived, he bowed respectfully. The chief said, I have been hearing good things about you. Continue what you're doing. You are a light in this village. Michael bowed again and left quietly. But inside his heart, joy was dancing. Michael's hard work continued. He repaired the leaking part of Mama Grace's roof using palm leaves and clay. He built a small bench outside for her to sit on in the evenings. He taught her how to use charcoal to cook faster and how to dry herbs during the rainy season. You are no longer a boy. You are a man, and a good one. Michael laughed. Mama, I'm still growing. She replied, and your future is growing too. Then something strange began to happen. Wherever Michael went, people began to like him. The tailor gave him a free shirt. The yam seller gave him extra tubers. The headmaster said, if you want to come and sit in my class once in a while, I will not stop you. Michael didn't understand it. Why is everyone suddenly helping me? He asked Mama Grace. She looked at him quietly and said, because when you bless others, blessings chase you without you asking. As they sat under the tree after supper, Michael said, Mama, do you ever miss having a real child? Mama Grace smiled gently. My son, I used to cry every night. I used to ask God, why me? But now I know why. I was waiting for you. Michael looked at her with surprise. Me? She nodded. Yes, I did not give birth to you, but I received you from heaven. And now, my heart is full. Michael did say a word. He just held her hand, and the stars above them blinked like 1,000 blessings watching silently from heaven. It started with a cough. Just a small cough. But that night, the cough grew louder. Mama Grace's chest rose and fell like a storm was trapped inside her. Michael, who was lying on the floor beside her bed, woke up with worry in his eyes. Mama, are you okay? She smiled weakly. Don't worry, my son. It's just my old bones complaining. But Michael knew something was wrong. He had seen Mama Grace fall sick before, but this time, it felt different. The next morning, she did not get out of bed. Did not ask for water. Not tell a story. Just lay there, looking out the window as if she was watching something far away. Michael sat by her side, holding a cloth and wiping her forehead. He whispered, "You're going to be fine, Mama. I will go and bring fresh herbs from the forest." But as he stood up, she held his wrist. "Sit down, Michael." He sat. She turned her head and said, "I know my time is near." Michael's heart skipped. "No, Mama. Don't say that. You will be strong again. You just need rest." She smiled. "You are still young, but one day you will understand. The body speaks when it's ready to go. And my body, it's whispering goodbye." Michael did not want to hear it. He looked down, tears already gathering in his eyes. "Mama, please don't leave me." Mama Grace reached for his hand and held it tightly. "Listen to me, Michael. I may not have gold to give you. I have no land, no money, no house to leave behind. But what I do have is a blessing." Michael sniffed. "Mama, let me finish." She sat up using all her strength, and placed both hands on his head. Closed her eyes and began to speak. "May heaven remember your name. May every door that was shut against you open wide. May favor follow you like your shadow. May those who look down on you bow down to you. May you sit among kings and dine among the mighty. You shall not beg. You shall not lack. The world will call you blessed. The nations will know your name. Where others are rejected, you will be chosen. Where others fall, you will rise." Her voice grew weaker, but her eyes were glowing like stars. "Michael, you came into my life when I had nothing. And now I leave this world with a full heart. Go and live your life. A great one." Michael's tears were flowing freely now. He held her hands and wept like a child. "I love you, Mama," he whispered. "And I love you, my son," replied. Then she closed her eyes. And she never opened them again. News spread fast. Mama Grace had passed away. Some said, she was old. Others said, she waited for that boy before going. Michael was the one who washed her body. He prepared her small hut. He dug the grave behind her house, beside the mango tree where they used to sit. The village chief sent a crier to announce the burial. People gathered not because Mama Grace was rich, but because her story had touched them. Michael stood by her grave, holding a flower. He said, "You gave me more than life. You gave me love, and I will make you proud." Then he dropped the flower into the grave and covered it with soil. Michael stayed alone in the hut, staring at her clothes, her cooking pot, the chair where she told stories. The house was quiet, but something strange began to happen. People began to visit. One man came and said, "You helped Mama Grace till her last breath. Here, take this bag of rice." A teacher came and said, "I heard you never went to school. I will teach you how to read." A nurse came and said, "If you ever want to learn medicine, I can show you a few things." Even Sister Beatrice from the market came with 2 shirts and shoes. Michael was confused. "Why are you all helping me?" They all gave the same answer. "Because of what you did." A black jeep drove into the village. People rushed out to see. A tall man in a suit stepped out and asked, "Please, where can I find the boy named Michael who stayed with Mama Grace?" The villagers pointed to the hut at the edge of the forest. The man went there and saw Michael sweeping the compound. "Are you Michael?" "Yes, sir." The man smiled. "My name is Mr. Alfred. I'm part of a foundation that supports young people with kind hearts. We heard about you. Your story is spreading." Michael blinked. "My story?" Mr. Alfred nodded. "We would like to offer you a full scholarship. You will go to the city, and after that if you do well you may travel abroad to study." Michael dropped the broom and fell to his knees. Tears rushed from his eyes. "Thank you, sir. Thank you so much." But deep in his heart, he knew it was Mama Grace's blessing speaking. He packed the few clothes he had, he stood outside the hut and looked at the sky. "I hope you're watching, Mama," he whispered. "I'm going to make your blessing count." Michael had never stepped outside the village. He had never been on a real road, never entered a car with glass windows, and never slept in a house with a ceiling. So when the big black jeep came to pick him up, he was scared, excited, and confused all at the same time. Mr. Alfred, the man from the Scholarship Foundation, smiled at him. "Relax, Michael. You're about to start a new chapter." Michael looked back at Mama Grace's hut. It stood there quietly, her broom by the door, her water pot still full, the mango tree dropping its leaves gently as if waving goodbye. "I will come back," he whispered. "I will never forget you." Then he entered the car, and his journey began. Michael stared through the window, wide-eyed. He saw rivers, large farms, buses, schools, and things he had only heard about in stories. When they entered the city, he froze. Tall buildings stood like giants. Bright lights danced in every corner. Children in uniforms rushed past him, holding snacks. Men in suits walked fast, talking into small shiny devices. Michael whispered, "So this is how the world looks outside the village." Mr. Alfred took him to a student hostel, clean and organized. There were bunk beds, fans, a small study table, and even a bathroom inside the room. Michael had never used a flush toilet before. He stood in the middle of the room, speechless. "This is your room, Michael," Mr. Alfred said. "You stay here while you study." Michael bowed his head deeply. "Thank you, sir. God bless you, sir." School started the next day. Michael was nervous. The other students looked smart, well-dressed, and confident. Some had laptops, others had shiny shoes. Michael only had 2 shirts, 1 pair of sandals, and a pen he found in the street. But when the teacher entered the class and began to speak, something inside Michael clicked. Every word entered his brain like rain falling on dry soil. He understood everything. He answered questions. He paid attention. And slowly, he began to shine. Within 1 month, the teacher called him aside. "Michael," he said, "where have you been all your life?" Michael smiled shyly. "In the village, sir. Helping Mama Grace." The teacher nodded. "Well, you're doing great now. Keep going." Back in the hostel, Michael didn't waste time. While others joked and played, he studied. While others slept, he read. When he didn't understand something, he asked. The other students began to respect him. One of them, Joseph, said, "You may be poor, but your brain is rich." Michael laughed. "It's not just my brain, my brother. It's my mama's blessing." He told them about Mama Grace, how she raised him without money, how she loved him like a real mother, and how her last words opened his destiny. Some students cried after hearing the story. "She may be gone," Michael said, "but her prayers are still working." Michael continued to grow not just in knowledge, but in wisdom. He learned how to use computers. He learned how to speak in public. He even joined a writing club and began to tell stories. He wrote a story titled, "The Old Woman and the Boy Who Stayed." He shared it online. The story spread like wildfire. People from around the country read it. Some cried. Some donated money. Some invited him for interviews. One radio station called him and said, "We want to hear your story live." Michael went on air. He wore the cleanest shirt he had. As he spoke into the microphone, he said, "I am here today because one old woman loved me when nobody else did." The phone lines buzzed. Callers said things like, "That boy is special. I want to help him. God bless Mama Grace wherever she is." Something amazing happened. Mr. Alfred called him and said, "Michael, are you sitting down?" "Yes, sir. We have good news. One of our partner universities in the UK has offered you a full scholarship to study abroad. Tuition, accommodation, and flight, everything is covered." Michael froze. His mouth opened, but no words came out. "Abroad?" he finally asked. "Yes," Mr. Alfred said, smiling. "Get ready. You will be flying soon." That night, Michael sat alone in his room. He brought out the small picture he had drawn of Mama Grace, the only thing he had left of her. He placed it on the table and whispered, "Mama, it's happening. Just like you said, I'm going where no one in my family ever went." Tears ran down his face. Then he knelt beside the bed and prayed. "God, thank you. Thank you for giving me a second chance. Thank you for Mama Grace. I will not disappoint you." 2 weeks later, Michael stood at the airport for the first time in his life. He wore a clean shirt, jeans, and a pair of black shoes donated by a well-wisher. He carried a small box and held tightly to his passport. People around him were taking selfies, hugging loved ones, and wheeling big suitcases. Michael just stood quietly, looking up at the big plane outside the glass window. "So this is what flying looks like," he whispered. As he walked toward the gate, a worker at the airport said, "Are you traveling alone?" Michael nodded. "Yes. Do you have family abroad?" He smiled. "I have one in heaven. And the rest, I will find." Michael had never even climbed a ladder higher than a mango tree, and now he was flying through the sky in a giant metal bird. He sat by the window, watching the clouds float like cotton. The stewardess gave him juice and asked if he wanted chicken or beef. He smiled shyly. "Anything, Ma." As he ate, he looked out again and whispered, "Mama Grace, are you seeing this? When the plane landed in London, Michael stepped out into a new world. The cold breeze hit his face like fresh water. Cars moved fast. Lights sparkled in the night. The airport was huge. People spoke with strange accents, moving like they were in a hurry. Michael held tightly to his bag and passport. A young African man holding a sign with his name smiled and said, "Michael. Welcome. I'm Daniel, your student guide." Michael followed him, still in shock. They took a train, then a bus. And finally, they reached the university. Tall buildings, wide roads, classrooms with glass walls, a library that looked like a palace. Michael stood still for a moment and said, "Is this really for me?" Daniel laughed. "Yes, brother. You deserve it." The food tasted funny. The weather was too cold. The accents were hard to understand. Sometimes, he got lost on campus. Other times, students laughed at the way he said certain words. But Michael did not complain. He remembered Mama Grace's voice. "Where others fall, you will rise." So he focused. He studied day and night. He read more than anyone else. He watched pronunciation. He joined study groups. He asked questions without shame. The teachers began to notice. One lecturer said, "Michael, your essays are brilliant." Another said, "Your research skills are impressive." Even the university dean called him in one day. "I've read your story online," the dean said. "I want you to speak at the youth conference next month." Michael's eyes widened. "Me, sir? Yes. Your journey can inspire many." The day of the conference came. Michael stood on a big stage with bright lights shining on his face. Hundreds of students sat before him, waiting. He took a deep breath and began. "I come from a small village. A place where people thought nothing good could grow. I had no parents, no shoes, no school. But I had one thing. A blessing from an old woman who loved me like her own." He spoke from his heart. No script, no paper, just his voice and his story. By the end, many students were in tears. Some clapped, some stood and shouted, "Well done." Michael bowed and whispered, "Thank you, Mama." From that day, things changed again. People invited him to speak at schools, churches, and seminars. He got part-time jobs writing for magazines, editing speeches, helping charities. His face appeared in local newspapers. One headline read, "From firewood to fame. The boy with a mother's blessing." People reached out from across the world. One woman from Canada said, "Michael, your story reminded me to forgive my own mother." A pastor in South Africa said, "I shared your video in church." 20 young people gave their lives to Christ. Michael couldn't believe it. How did one small story become this big? He knew the answer in his heart. Love. Sacrificed. Michael sat in his room and pulled out a new diary. On the first page, he wrote, "Dear Mama Grace, you said I would go far. You said I would be chosen. You said I would sit among kings. I did not understand back then. But now I do. I will never forget you. I will carry your name wherever I go." He began to save money from his part-time jobs. Not for fancy clothes. Not for a big phone. But for something more important: to return home. Michael booked a flight back to Nigeria. He had one mission in mind. The plane landed. The air was warm. The sun was hot. But Michael felt peace. He took a car from the city to the village. When he arrived, children shouted, "He's back. Michael is back." The villagers came out. Women danced. Men clapped. Drums beat in the background. The market women shouted, "Our son has returned." Michael stepped out of the car clean, tall, and confident. He wore a white native outfit with simple shoes and carried a bag full of books. He walked straight to Mama Grace's grave under the mango tree. He knelt down. "Hello, Mama," he whispered. "I made it." Michael's name became known not just in his village, or Nigeria, but across Africa, even around the world. He became a symbol of hope. His story was taught in schools. His speeches were shared on social media. Even small children, who had never met Mama Grace, spoke of her with love and pride. They would say, "If Mama Grace could raise one boy with love and change the world, so can we." Michael didn't stop growing. He opened 5 more learning centers in different villages, all free. He gave scholarships to hundreds of children. He built a hospital named Grace Care for widows and the poor. He published a book called The Blessing of One Woman, and it sold across continents. But through it all, he remained the same. Simple, kind, humble. He still cooked with the villagers when he visited home. He still sat under the mango tree, where Mama Grace once told stories. In his early 40s, Michael received a Global Humanitarian Award. Today, the world sees me as a great man. But the real hero of my life is not here. She lived in a mud hut, fetched firewood, and never had a child of her own. Her name was Mama Grace. She gave me love when I had nothing, and her blessing changed my life. If you ever feel too small to matter, remember her. If you ever feel like no one sees you, remember me. And if you ever want to change the world, don't wait to be rich, start with the person beside you. The crowd gave him a thunderous standing ovation. But Michael looked up and whispered. The base of the statue, these words were written. She had no child of her own, but she raised a son for the world. The whole village gathered around the statue that day. Mama, I am a man now. A father. A leader. And so ends the story of a poor village boy, and whose life proved that the blessing of one heart can lift generations. And so, Michael's journey came full circle from a poor village boy with no shoes, to a great man who lifted others, just like one forgotten woman once lifted him. Remember this. One act of kindness can change a life. One life can change a village. And one village can change the world. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched your heart, please, don't forget to like, share with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to this channel for more powerful African life stories. You never know. God bless you. I love you all. Bye.